Welcome to the deep dive. We've got this documentary all about the disappearance of Bernadette Walker,
Oh, yeah?
17 years old from the UK.
Right.
And it's a case that's gotten a lot of attention, raised a lot of questions.
Uh,
So let's dive in and see what we can uncover together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is one of those cases that really highlights the complexities
Yeah.
of family dynamics, particularly in situations of abuse.
Right.
A lot to unpack here.
Yeah. The documentary starts by introducing Bernadette, or B, as she was known.
Right.
And, she seems like a pretty typical teenager,
Uh-uh.
photography student, and active on social media. She even enjoyed knitting, just like her grandmother.
I think that's a really crucial point, is that the documentary really humanizes B,
Right.
emphasizes her hobbies, her
Right.
aspirations,
Yeah.
reminds us that this wasn't just a case file.
Mm-hmm.
This was a young girl with a life full of promise.
Absolutely. And she even dreamt of moving to the United States. But behind this seemingly ordinary life, things were far from normal.
Right.
Family structure was incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
Bee's mother, Sarah, had 6 children from different fathers
Oh, wow.
before she even met Scott Walker, who she then had 4 more children with.
That's right. So 10 children in total.
10 kids.
Yeah, just trying to manage that many children and the
Mhm.
complexities of these blended
Oh
families
my gosh.
would be challenging enough.
Yeah.
But the documentary quickly reveals that there's another layer to this story.
Yeah.
Scott Walker's controlling and abusive nature.
Yeah. The details about Scott are really unsettling.
Yeah.
His previous wife, Jill, even encouraged his relationship with Sarah as a way to escape him.
Right.
Like she wanted him to be with Sarah so she could get away from him.
I know, it's a chilling detail.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear sign of a problematic personality.
It is.
Yeah.
And then there's the testimony from B's brother, Anthony,
Right.
who describes Scott as manipulative and domineering.
Mm-hmm.
So he paints a very disturbing picture of Scott's character.
And then there's that detail about Scott installing cameras
Yes.
in every room of the house, including the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
He claimed it was to catch B hiding candy wrappers.
Oh, wow.
But it just seems like such a red flag,
Yeah.
like an attempt to control and monitor every aspect of their lives.
Yeah, that's a great observation.
Yeah.
Installing cameras like that definitely raises questions about Scott's motivations.
Yeah.
It suggests a level of paranoia
Right.
and a need to exert power over others,
Yeah.
which is very common, a common characteristic of abusers.
So we've got this complex family structure.
Right.
And this father figure exhibiting some very troubling behaviors.
Yes.
And then the events leading up to B's disappearance start to unfold.
Right.
Sarah and Scott separate,
Okay.
but he continues to live in the house.
Oh, wow.
And he imposed rules on Sarah's new relationship
Right.
with a man named Chris.
That's an unusual dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even though they're separated, he still holds a significant amount of control
Mm-hmm.
over Sarah and her actions.
Right.
It makes you wonder if there's maybe an element of fear or coercion involved.
It makes you think about the nature of their relationship, like what was really going on there.
Exactly.
What were the power dynamics at play?
Yeah.
And then comes July 18th, 2020.
Okay.
Scott takes B to his parents' house,
Uh-huh.
confiscates her phone,
Mm.
and later claims that she disappeared while he was having a cigarette outside.
Right. And that's when things get very suspicious.
Yeah.
Not only is the timeline of events unclear,
Right.
but Sarah waited 3 whole days
Yeah.
before reporting B missing.
Right.
And during that time, she received text messages supposedly from B,
Yeah.
saying she was staying with her ex-boyfriend.
Those messages were so strange.
Yeah.
Especially considering Scott had taken her phone.
Right.
It seemed off.
It did.
And it turns out the police quickly discovered that those messages were fake,
Oh, wow.
sent by Sarah herself.
And that fabrication
Yeah.
is where the case really takes a significant turn. It raises serious questions about Sarah's involvement
Yeah.
and what she knew about B's disappearance.
Makes you wonder what she was trying to hide.
Right.
Why would she go to such lengths to create this false narrative?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's at this point that the investigation really starts to reveal these inconsistencies in both Scott and Sarah's stories.
Right.
The police use phone records to expose their trips to Scott's parents' lock-up garage,
Yeah.
where they eventually find B's backpack.
And inside that backpack, they found a diary entry
Oh, wow.
that completely changed the course of the investigation.
They did, and this diary entry revealed a chilling truth,
Yeah.
that B had been trying to tell her mother about the abuse she was suffering at the hands of Scott.
It's so heartbreaking. B confides in her mom about this abuse, and instead of protecting her, Sarah dismisses her claims.
That's awful.
Yeah, and even threatens her.
Right.
It's hard to wrap my head around that betrayal.
I know it's a very difficult concept to grasp.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to be abused by a parental figure and then disbelieved and silenced by the other parent.
Right.
It's like a double trauma
Yeah.
and can have really profound psychological impacts on a child.
The documentary shares some of Bee's diary entries.
Yeah.
And just reading her words,
Right.
feeling her pain and desperation is just gut-wrenching.
It is.
You know, it really brings her experience to life.
It does. Those diary entries are so powerful.
Yeah.
They give us a glimpse into Bee's inner world. You know,
Yeah.
her fears, her desperate attempts to reach out for help.
One entry that really stuck with me was from July 2020.
Mm-hmm.
She writes about being scared,
Yeah.
about Scott threatening her and telling her not to tell anyone.
Oh, it's chilling.
It's chilling.
Yeah.
And that entry, combined with the testimonies of Bee's friends and brother, really helped build this compelling case against Scott Walker,
Right.
even without a body.
Right, because they didn't have physical evidence of Bee's death.
Right.
But the police had enough to arrest both Scott and Sarah Walker.
Yeah, Scott for murder and Sarah for perverting the course of justice.
Right.
I have to admit I wasn't entirely familiar with that legal term.
Yeah, perverting the course of justice essentially means obstructing the legal process.
Okay.
So in Sarah's case, it involved her attempts to cover up the crime
Right.
and mislead the investigation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got this mountain of evidence against them.
Right.
How did the trial unfold? Did Scott maintain his innocence?
He did. The documentary includes footage from the trial.
Oh, wow.
And Scott insists that Bee simply ran away,
Okay.
but his claims were ultimately undermined by the sheer weight of evidence against him.
Yeah, I imagine those fake text messages didn't help his case.
Definitely not the fabricated messages, along with the suspicious trips to the walk-up garage.
Right.
And Bee's own words in her diary painted a very different picture.
Yeah.
You know, they reveal this pattern of deception
Mm.
and a clear attempt to cover up the truth.
And what about that Facebook comment that
Yeah.
Scott made on a picture of Bee with her boyfriend?
Right.
He wrote something like, "Any boy who kisses you better have the image of me in your head." Like, it's creepy and controlling.
It is. It's creepy and controlling. And
Yeah.
that comment, along with the testimony about the cameras throughout the house,
Right.
really suggests a deeply possessive
Yeah.
and controlling personality.
Mm.
You know, this need to dominate
Right.
and manipulate those around him.
So despite his attempts to maintain his innocence,
Right.
the jury ultimately saw through Scott's lies and found him guilty of murder.
Yes, he was sentenced to life in prison,
Wow.
with an additional stipulation due to his refusal to disclose the location of Bee's body.
Okay.
It's called Helen's Law.
Tell me a little bit more about Helen's Law. I'm not familiar with that.
Yes, certainly Helen's Law was introduced to the UK in 2020,
Okay.
and it's named after Helen McCourt, who was murdered in 1988. And her killer has never revealed the location of her remains.
Oh, wow.
And this law was introduced to prevent convicted murderers from being eligible for parole
Okay.
if they withhold information about their victims' remains.
So in Scott's case, he was given essentially a harsher sentence because he refused to reveal where Bee's body was.
Exactly. It's a way for the justice system to try and provide some measure of closure
Right.
for families who are left in this agonizing limbo,
Yeah.
not knowing what happened to their loved one.
It makes sense, but it also makes you wonder if it truly achieves justice
That's a valid point.
or just prolongs the pain.
Yeah, it's a complex issue
Yeah.
with no easy answers.
For sure.
You know, some argue that it incentivizes murderers to cooperate and provide closure,
Right.
while others feel it's an added punishment that doesn't actually help locate the victim.
Yeah. Tough situation.
It is.
No easy answers.
No.
And what about Sarah Walker?
Right.
What was the outcome of her trial?
Sarah was found guilty of perverting the course of justice
Okay.
and sentenced to 6 years in prison.
Wow.
So while she wasn't directly convicted of murder,
Right.
her role in covering up Scott's crimes
Mm-hmm.
and failing to protect Bee had devastating consequences.
It's hard to understand how a mother could betray her child in such a way.
It is.
The documentary presents both sides of the story,
Uh-huh.
but ultimately Sarah's actions are just incredibly difficult to comprehend.
Yeah, her silence and her lies enabled Scott's abuse
Right.
and ultimately contributed to Bee's tragic fate.
Even with both Scott and Sarah behind bars, the case remains open.
That's right.
Bee's body was never found.
The documentary highlights the ongoing search efforts,
Right.
led by Bee's determined brother Anthony.
Yeah.
He refuses to give up hope of finding her remains
Mm-hmm.
and giving her a proper burial.
It's incredibly sad. And then in 2023, Scott Walker dies in prison.
Right.
It feels like a final blow,
Yeah.
extinguishing any hope of ever learning the truth about what happened to Bee.
It's a tragic end to an already heartbreaking story.
Yeah.
And his death really cemented the fact that Bee's location would likely never be known.
So frustrating, just adds to the immense sadness surrounding this case.
It does.
But the documentary doesn't stop there.
Right?
It also delves into the financial aspect of the case,
Uh-huh.
revealing that Scott was actually receiving benefits intended for Bee's care,
Wow.
even after she disappeared. I mean, it's almost unbelievable that someone could be so callous, right?
It is.
To continue to collect benefits meant for a missing child.
Right.
It just adds another layer of depravity to this already horrific story.
It speaks to a disturbing lack of remorse.
Yeah.
And, just a profound sense of entitlement.
Right.
It's like Scott believed he was owed this money
Yeah.
even after his role in Bee's disappearance.
It's sickening.
Yeah.
And beyond the financial exploitation,
Mm-hmm.
The documentary explores the ripple effects of this case,
Yeah.
particularly on Bee's siblings.
Mm.
They lost their sister and then had to grapple with this horrifying truth about their father
Right.
and the complicity of their mother.
It's hard to imagine the trauma that they've endured.
Unimaginable.
Yeah, it is.
The documentary features interviews with some of Bee's siblings,
Yeah.
and their pain is just palpable.
It is.
They speak of their confusion, their anger, and this lingering hope
Mhm.
that one day they might find out what truly happened.
Their resilience in the face of such unimaginable adversity is remarkable.
It really is.
It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit
Yeah.
and the enduring power of love.
This deep dive has been incredibly emotional.
It has.
But Bee's story is one that needs to be told.
It does.
It's a stark reminder that abuse can happen anywhere,
Absolutely.
even within families,
Right?
and that we all have a responsibility to be vigilant.
Yes. We need to educate ourselves about the signs of abuse,
Right.
believe survivors when they come forward,
Yeah.
and create a culture where victims feel safe and empowered to speak out.
So after diving deep into this case, what sticks with you? What questions linger in your mind? Bee's story deserves to be remembered.
It does.
And perhaps by reflecting on this case
Right.
and engaging in these difficult conversations, we can help prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future.
I think that's a crucial point.
Yeah.
If this deep dive has prompted any thoughts or concerns for you,
Yeah.
if you have questions about the case, or if it's sparked a desire to learn more about recognizing and addressing abuse,
Right.
there are resources available.
Yeah, you're not alone.
You're not alone, and there's always hope for healing
Mm.
and positive change,
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive
of course.
into the tragic case of Bernadette Walker.
It's been a tough but important journey.
It has been. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic,
Looking forward to it.
ready to explore and uncover new insights together.